Hey, what's going on? Welcome along to episode 83 of the Strategy and Conversions podcast with Jamie and Mark. Mark, we've done a few little series now on, different things in the podcast. The last one was on kind of buying and selling businesses, growing through acquisition, getting to a stage where we're looking to sell. But then we kind of went, okay, what about the next step? What is just the next step for anyone within their business right now? The big kind of vision is let's sell the business, or let's get to that point where I'm investing where I'm investing in the business and sitting above the business.
Yeah.
But right now, what should I focus on? What should I be doing? That would be a good topic for us to talk about today.
Yeah, I think it would. And I think that is a bit difficult because especially when you are in the middle of things and you've got to think about all the different things that are going on, you're bound to know of things that aren't working as well as you want. And you're bound to know also on the opposite side of that there are things that are really going well. But it's just getting to know that and then thinking, right, okay, where do I, and it comes down to priorities, doesn't it? Where do I set my priorities to work on something or to focus on something? And if I improve in one area, what are the consequences down the line? That may cause me problems. It's like the people talk about cars and engines, isn't it? If you got an old car and you replace something with a brand new part in an old car, it puts strains and stresses all the way down the transmission, and you never ever quite understand where the next problem is going to come from. So you need to put a lot of thought into it.
I mean, that right there is an episode we can do, right?
Yeah.
So talking about that with car engines, I mean, there's so many different metaphors, analogies, and all kinds of things that can relate to cars. But I mean, that's a great way of putting it, isn't it? That kind of pipeline. Like for me, I always kind of get it where people will say, okay, what should I be doing? What should I be focusing on? How do I get more customers? And it isn't as simple as just that question. Right. When it comes down to it, yes, okay, we want to get more customers, right? I mean, that's in a nutshell. But really, it comes down to, okay, but for what?
Yeah.
Where and why, and who is it we're trying to go after? Because a lot of people there will kind of go, I need to get more customers, and I need to now look at an ad campaign or something like that to kind of boost my awareness and lead generation. When really they could be sat on a gold mine right now with their existing clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we were talking about that just now, weren't we? About different plumbers, for example, with you get a lot of plumbers who'll come out and they'll do a job. I don't know how many of them offer monthly boiler inspections, for example. Maybe they think because they don't have the manpower to do that. So again, it's there's an income stream that could be put in place there. Do I focus on getting more business when it comes to annual inspections, but then do I have the manpower to be able to do those annual inspections if I get a lot of people taking me up on that? And so it's the questions that really come about is, as you said, what are your what are your goals? You want to ultimately we were talking about selling businesses and the rest of it, but what are your goals the short term? What do you want to be doing? I want to increase my income, maybe, but I suspect a lot of people say, I want to increase my profits. Right. Does that mean getting more people in? Or does that mean just getting smarter at, again, if you're a plumber, maybe signing people up to contracts, maybe asking them for regular inspections, quarterly inspections or something that may be chargeable. But then it's okay, how are you going to fulfill that if you do start asking that? So you can't just say, that's what we're going to do. Because going back to the car engine thing, say, yeah, I'm gonna, I don't know, I replace the cam belt, for example. I'm going to change this integral part of the car engine. How's that going to affect everything else? And that's the same thing with this. If you say, yeah, okay, we'll start concentrating on that. How is that going to affect me 6 months down the line when all these people suddenly want these 6 monthly inspections, and you've still got your regular business going? And let's face it, most plumbers say they're busy. So all of a sudden you've got to find extra time to suddenly go and give these extra inspections. How are you going to handle that?
And that there is the thin line, isn't it? I mean, that is exactly it. I mean, when we break everything down, it's going to come down to supply and demand.
Yeah.
Right? So the supply, your lead generation, the people coming in, the kind of upcoming work that you have, that pipeline. First is the demand then on how you actually fulfill on those customers that you have, and it can be Yeah, every business has this. It doesn't matter what kind of section we're talking about trades. I think let's carry on with those kind of that plumber kind of angle, and look at it that way, and we'll look at some different kind of examples also. But just on that, look, there's so many things that they can do to bring in work right now, or like you said, it's not even bringing work, is it? It's bringing in profit.
Yeah.
Income and profit get mixed up quite a lot. People kind of look at income being, the money that they earn, but really, it's like, where do we make more money per customer?
Exactly. Yeah.
And then that demand also then is, okay, look, I've always found this where people will say, oh, I can't do that because what happens if it works? We get really busy and everything like that. And it's like, okay, but what happens if you just continue doing what you're doing and nothing works? Like, is that kind of thing. There is that thin line, there is that balancing act. But what you can do is cap it. So that scenario that you just mentioned there is that going, okay, look, if we charge people a monthly fee and we do an annual boiler inspection, or maybe I actually love that idea of a quarterly boiler inspection, Matt, because I don't think anyone that does that I know of.
No, I don't.
And just having that there where it's just, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, we're just going to pop in, for 20 minutes. We're just going to put it on. We're going to do our little test and everything like that. We're not going to do a service or anything. We're just doing a little check, And it's like, the reason we do that is we know then that it's working. Should there, we can spot if anything's going to be, an issue coming up or anything like that.
Yeah, saves time. Yeah.
And it's like, and by doing those quarterly checks, really, it means it's nothing big should go wrong, or it's only the kind of things that no one could ever predict or anything like that go wrong. But all the little things are kind of taken care of, and you know what? Yeah, you just pay a monthly amount. It's just like, I would sign up for that. It sounds as if it's a good little deal where you kind of go, okay, peace of mind.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of sorted there. And what you could do there is you go, right, okay, we're going to be really busy if we do that, because finding these kind of check-ins and that, we can only manage it so many. It's like, okay, well, look, how about you set a day every fortnight that you now do these checks on? So instead of saying to, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, just, let us know a time that and anything like that. But we only do this on a Thursday. So you have to book your time on a Thursday. Will someone be in kind of thing? Can you arrange to be in? It's going to be on the Thursday. It's going to be at 10 a.m. That we're going to come in. You now know that, okay, you can fit so many slots in.
Exactly.
On Thursdays, or even fortnight Thursdays, even monthly Thursdays, whatever you want to do. It's all of a sudden now, you know the capacity. We're only going to try this out with 20 people.
Yeah, that's yeah, and that is quite staggering to a lot of people, aren't they? Because they always give the customer the option, and yes, of course, that the giving customers the option is the right thing. But a lot of customers actually would love their life planned for them, and so you can say, right, okay, so Thursday, the whatever date it is, 11 a.m. We're going to come in 20 minutes. We're just going to make sure everything's okay. Is that fine with you? Yeah. Or if they say, no, I can't do the morning, but can you do the afternoon? Yeah, we'll schedule it in now. You've been in control of that, and you've arranged it, and you've done it, and you haven't been open to them saying, well, I better go and talk to my husband or my wife and find out what dates, and you're just waiting around. You give them something, and it's not about well, it's a bit like herding in a way. And you're also saying, okay, instead of having all these sheep roaming around in an open field, I'm going to start putting in different sheep into different pens. And this pen is 10 o'clock on a Friday. We're going to do this. And then all of a sudden you said, which pen do you want to walk into? But the whole point is you're giving them the option. And then you're far more control of what's going on. And like you said, then it becomes more manageable for you.
That what you said there, I mean, what came to my mind is, it happens to me, I'm sure it happens to other people, but it's like, I sit down with the missus and we'll be like, okay, what should we watch on TV? And then it's quarter of an hour goes past before we've even picked what we're going to watch or something, right? Or the argument sets in with Netflix and we're kind of going through.
Oh, yeah.
Today. and then it comes down to what we're eating for dinner.
Yeah. Oh.
It's the same thing, right? How much wasted time comes in? And that again, back and forth. It could even be that you just send someone the booking link, And even in that situation, look, okay, we do it on a Thursday. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, if you didn't book in, I'm sorry, but that's on you. It's that kind of thing. It's like that, but we get plenty of time. If you're doing it that quarterly, you get plenty of time anyway. But something else that came to mind now is, talking with a guy, really successful business, right? and he's fully booked for the month. And he's like, oh, I'm at my capacity now. I'm fully booked for the month and stuff like that. So we'll just open up next month. So, well, do you think people will wait around like 2 weeks and stuff like that to see? He's like, of course. You know, you're in demand at the minute. It's like that demand is there. Like people value your service. People value you. People are booking in your service 2-3 weeks now in advance. Why wouldn't they book 4-6 weeks? You know, if what you're providing is that good to them, you know, give them that option instead of just kind of waiting and kind of just, okay, in 2 weeks' time and never 2 weeks will open up. Just open them up now. You know, what's the worst that can happen? No one books it until 2 weeks' time. Fine. Yeah. You know, but you can actually now start booking yourself up way in advance and having more of that demand.
That's right. Yeah. And you know, and again, it's just another thing that comes to mind as well is that with my like doctors, so in the UK at the moment, I mean, booking an appointment to see a doctor is it takes a long time. But my surgery, and I think quite a few do it because it's all automated on SMS. They'll send you a reminder a week before and then a day before. So yeah, but again, I've heard arguments from people saying, yeah, but if you book it that long in advance, people are going to forget. Well, you can set up reminders. That kind of software or that kind of thing doesn't cost you anything anymore. Just send out reminders. Oh, by the way, Mrs. Jones, in a week's time, we're coming round. Everything okay? Just let us know if it's not. And then the day before, hope everything's okay. We'll be round at 11 o'clock. Bang. Automated reminders. And Mrs. Jones has got so much peace of mind that she doesn't care she's had to wait, 6 weeks or whatever. It doesn't matter. As you said, then open it up until it gets to a stage where you think, hang on, I'm booked that much in advance that maybe I need to close this now. But hey, that's a good problem to have because then you can forecast a bit of income and maybe you can get an extra person in because all of a sudden you are now forecasting your business to know that, I can afford to have another person in to help me with this because that I'm getting that income and ultimately, I guess, the profit from it.
Absolutely. I think that there is something that it's beyond the scope of what we're going to discuss in this podcast, right?
Oh yeah. Sorry.
No. It's such a major point, but I think this is where it comes into more kind of hands-on and there's more detail which is needed, right? But knowing that kind of part where you actually need to bring in additional help and planning that in advance is what separates the professional business to an amateur business, right?
Yeah.
You know, is that kind of thing where, okay, look, we are increasing the supply now. You know, we are increasing the demand. So how are we going to deal with this? And this is the issue that some businesses find themselves in when, like I said in the beginning, where, okay, well, if this works, we're going to be really busy. It's like, that isn't that what we want? It doesn't mean that you have to be really busy, that you have to be on the tools all the time and stuff like that. What you can do is take the right steps now to get people in place that are going to be able to deal with that when that demand comes, you know. And I was talking to a guy as well, you know, again, successful business, everything like that, kind of looking at things saying, look, you don't do X, Y, Z, why not? And it's just like, well, we don't have the capacity right now. It's like, well, shouldn't you be thinking forward about how you can start putting that capacity in place? Because money is being left on the table. You know, you could actually double your business now just by being a little more aggressive and actually after stuff. But you're being a bit reluctant. You're sitting back now because you think, we haven't got the capacity, we haven't got the staff. It's like, what is that chicken and egg thing, right? It's like, what comes first?
Exactly. Yeah. And it, as you said before, you know, it is a bit of a fine line. It is a bit of a balancing act, and sometimes it does require a bit of courage. You got to think, well, can I really do this? But when you know that, and this is the point, isn't it? It's when from a professional business owner point of view, it's being confident in this is going to happen. So, for example, if you think, right, if I do this, I know I'm going to get people in because maybe you run a very, very slimmed down type version of the product as a test. And if you test out that little minimum viable product, as people call it, you have a little test of that product that may be a quarterly service. Try it out with a number of addresses just as a test. If people take you up on it, you maybe put it out to 10 different people. And if you get a response that 6 out of 10 want it, then you know it's in demand. And you think, right, okay, there's a 60% chance that this is going to work. So then you say, right, if I open up to this many people, this is the revenue I'm going to get in. I can now, at this point, working out the revenue, I can afford to take someone else on to start training them up so they can do the very, very simple little quarterly service. Because going back to this one particular example, a quarterly service or a check is I take it would be very, very simple. Probably a case of just a couple of things doing this. If there's a problem, then that's fine. You say, I think we found a problem. I can't fix it now, but I'll report it back to our head office or whatever, and we'll fix in another date to sort it out for you. Mrs. Jones is over. Okay, we better get it fixed. And rather than Mrs. Jones having waited till the end of the year to find that problem, she's got the peace of mind that you've picked up on it. The person has just done a relatively simple service type operation, which I guess could be done by a junior level staff, not so much experience. But then the problem is passed on, so all of a sudden that problem can be scheduled in, so that you don't have an unexpected problem, like an emergency call, in 3 months' time. At, let's say 10 o'clock at night, say my boiler's packed up, and all of a sudden you've got to think about, who's going to supply that, and how can we do this, and it's all that whole proactive type approach to maintenance and stuff, and getting it so that it's really causing you the least hassle possible.
I was just thinking exactly that. Then it was like the biggest issue in business, and what you usually find from that initial kind of level, the people who are in business on their own, feast and famine and stuff like that, through to that kind of professional business owner of, things being predictable, things being measurable and manageable, is the uncertainty. That's the big thing. Is that what happens? Like sometimes, in all fairness, it's easier for the person who is on their own, because if they don't have the work in, they go on offensive, right? So they go on kind of their backs against the wall, so they have to come out swinging. Is that they have to go and try and find work and stuff like that. Where sometimes you get it in a kind of, say, a small to medium-sized business, and things are looking quite good. And because things are looking quite good, they're quite placid.
Yeah.
Everything's kind of ticking along. And sometimes that's a worse place to be in.
Yeah.
Because, how many times have you said it before? Look, if you're not growing, you're shrinking, right? If you're not building, you're building momentum in one of two ways. You're either going forward or backwards. So it's like, if things are looking good and things are ticking along, really, are you losing out? Are you actually dropping down? And stuff like that, rather than you actually getting to the stage that you want to be at. And sometimes, like with that kind of smaller business, is that they may not have then that leap of faith, or they may not have that, again, come back to that kind of clarity, confidence, courage, to do that in themselves, to kind of take that leap and go, okay, I do need to spend some money on this, or I do need to get some support with this, or I do need to actually take on not more than what I can handle, but just being honest with yourself and going, look, my capacity, what is it right now? Could I be doing a lot more? The jobs that are taking me a day to do, could I really be doing them in an hour? Is it just that there's no pressure on me? And I'm sometimes it's about being honest with yourself. So I think actually kind of going full circle and coming back to the beginning where we said about, look, where do we focus right now?
Yeah.
I think the beginning part there is asking yourself the honest question, and that thing will go in. Look, where we are right now is from what we've been doing for the past 6 months. It's the result of my efforts, my activity from the past 6 months. So where I am right now is where I've chosen to be.
Yeah.
Like, what do I need to change for 4 and 6 months' time to be where I want to be?
Yeah, and especially if you're in a situation where you are a small business and you do suffer from a bit of feast and famine, and you have your own particular sort of business winters before you start up again, is that in that feasting period is like you just said, what you did 6 months ago or 3 months ago is where you are now. So in that feasting period, think, okay, if that's the case, if I'm doing really, really well now, what am I putting in place now to ensure that in 3 months' time it's going to be even better? And so if you're suffering from these from these peaks and then troughs of business, what can you do when you're at the peak to make sure that your trough, despite the fact you may have a trough, is not as deep as it was before, and then your peak coming up after that is even higher. So then you can start to thin out those troughs, so they're not as deep, and all of a sudden you get more of a softer, wavy line on your business, and the famine things aren't as bad as you thought they were. They not as bad as you thought they once were. And again, like we've said in many podcasts before, the time to really start taking action on how to improve your business is when you're doing well, is when you're having that feast period. Not when you're going into a famine, it's too late, because money's drying up, you're struggling, and you suddenly, and going back to confidence and courage, your confidence fails because your business isn't doing well. You don't have the courage to put things in place. When you're at your peak and everything's going well, that's when you have the courage and the confidence to put things in place that you know will actually help you out when that winter of discontent comes along, and all of a sudden, and hopefully you avoid it because you put things in place. But it's again that learning process. We've said this so many times before, haven't we? Have you been in business 5 years, or have you been repeating the same year 5 times? And is the same year just the constant drudge of feast and famine? So how can you change that? So how can you, going back to what we said at the very beginning, what can I focus on now to make sure that I don't go into a famine period? What can I do? And it may mean, like you said, putting some money to one side. But when you've got it, is the time to do it. And that time could be an employee that you're training up to do the basic stuff, so that all of a sudden you put these plans in place, going back to this servicing thing of quarterly services or 6 monthly services. You've suddenly got someone who on that particular day can be just employed to be doing that, and possibly they can do more of them, because that's someone else now you didn't bargain for in your business, and that they can now fulfill that one job.
Definitely. And I think like that there is where you can look at the stuff that always needs doing and look at support for that, so like you said, that whole kind of feast and famine part, when things are going well, and we've all been there, we've all done it, and even businesses do it as well, right, is we take our foot off the gas.
Yeah.
And we're kind of like, okay, I don't need to send more messages or emails or something like that. I don't need to put some stuff out on social media. I don't need to book sales calls in, or as many, because things are ticking along and things are all right. When actually those are the times when you should double down, on the things that are doing, because this is that kind of cap. Like you get people that they talk about glass ceilings, and stuff like that. It's like, that's what happens is you get to that glass ceiling, is that because you've taken your foot off the gas, you start losing that momentum. So when it comes to that famine part, you're kind of working with some customers and stuff like that, that starts to drop down. You finish dealing with, a couple of customers or something like that, and you're trying to get another 2 customers in. But that deal flow time, that pipeline time, is like 6 weeks away. But you now need them to come in within the next 2 weeks, and that's where it gets real dangerous. That's what happens with people. Is okay, I've got enough work on now, I don't need to do the basics. It's like, well, when you get enough work in, pay someone else to do the basics. Or spend a bit of time, making sure the basics get done anyway. Schedule that in, and then that being the first thing that you schedule in is getting the basics done, getting the kind of, okay, how do we create more awareness about the business? How do we get the leads in? How do we nurture those leads? How do we get people in to actually convert? I mean, I just did a big kind of article thing on leads, where we look at marketing qualified leads versus sales qualified leads, because so many people are spending too much time on the marketing qualified leads rather than the sales.
I saw that.
They're trying to get people, like what they're trying to do is put a lead magnet out or something like that, and then try and sell straight to that person. And don't get me wrong, there will be people who need your services right now, but qualify them in a better way. If you're putting a message out there saying, look, if you're suffering with this problem XYZ right now, I can fix it with, this service. Jump on a call and let's talk about it. Anyone who's booking that call is a sales qualified lead, right? They have that issue. They want to talk to you. But if you're putting out a lead magnet and it's 10 ways to do XYZ, and then you're just like, let's accelerate that really fast and, book a call in for my service, which is a 3-month service. is a big disconnect. I'll give you an example on that. Imagine now that you have you have a document that is 10 ways to beat the menopause, right? Or deal with the menopause in a nice way, kind of thing, right? It's someone who's downloading that. If you're now going straight into sign up for my 3-month program, right? It's too much.
Yeah.
Right. But if you're saying, look, if you're suffering from X, Y, Z right now, you want to make it better, you want a solution to it, I have a 3-month service that I can really help you to do this. Is X amount, whatever it is. If you're interested, let's talk about it. Anyone who's booking that call is really, that intent is there. But people aren't segmenting in that sort of way, to make it happen. Right? And we'll talk about that in the next podcast episode, right? We'll talk about that kind of gap and filling that gap and getting into it. But my whole kind of point there is like, look, the basics need to be covered, right? Where we need to be marketing people to kind of bring them in. Because those marketing qualified leads, over time, they become the sales qualified leads, right? Because they build up to a point where they know, like, and trust you. Maybe they have that issue and it's causing them more of a problem. Maybe something is happening event-wise. Maybe someone's been taken ill and now they think they need to get in shape themselves. Maybe it's a case of they now have some money that they can invest with you. Whatever that is, times change. So we need to nurture those people into when they're ready to become salespeople, sales qualified leads. But what we need to do is obviously make sure that that marketing is done.
That's right, and that's our buyer's mountain concept, isn't it? Yeah. Where we have you always constantly be nurturing people because they could eventually become not in every case, but certainly if they're interested in you and you keep nurturing them and you keep doing the right things, there's a large majority that will become your sales leads as opposed to just your marketing programs. And I think that's why it's interesting, isn't it? It took a long time for people to separate those two functions. I remember when I started out in business years ago, there was your sales team. There was nothing about marketing at all because the sales team picked up the phone and it was like, bro, we've got this, and this, and do you want to buy it? And it's, this is what it cost you. And that was, and that's how it used to be almost. But then the sophistication changed and people realized that potential customers needed to be nurtured. And that's when the marketing started taking much more of a recognized role than the sales team. And then eventually companies split out the marketing and sales as two different functions because they're two different mindsets. And the marketing really is all about education, and it's about getting their interest, but just keep nurturing them and educating them and giving them a bit of value and doing this. And the sales often are on commission. So the sales teams often is, okay, I want to close the deal. That's their mindset. That's why they become relatively good salespeople, because I know that doesn't always work, but they have conversations. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that salespeople are always driving for the sale, but because they're used to conversations, they're always looking to close. Marketing aren't necessarily looking to close. If you look at marketing messages and sales messages, marketing messages don't have many call to actions on them. They're much more educational, much more nurturing, because that's what they're doing. They're getting people to trust you know what you're talking about. And the call to actions in there are a bit softer and maybe not so frequent. In sales messages, it's all about a call to action. And that's whether it's a phone call or whether it's an email or video, whatever. The call to action is quite, they'll have about 2 or 3 call to actions maybe in that whole thing, because that's what they want you to do now. They want to take you from the marketing field where all these people are and take you through the gate into the sales field.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, that right there, like for anyone listening to this podcast, or you can think of someone through conversations that you've had and stuff like that. You will hear people talk about, I've been trying that, it doesn't work, right? Or I've tried getting leads off of social media, or we've just been adding loads and loads of value, but nothing ever comes from it. And it is just the placement of those call to actions. A lot of the time, it's just about when you drop that call to action, and that call to action be in the right time. And sometimes you don't even know when it's the right time.
No.
But you just have to be in the game in order to win it. right? It's just that thing there is that what a lot of people will do is they do a lot of marketing, they want to show how good they are and everything like that, but they never then have that next step to jump into the sales process, you know?
Yeah.
And there are different people, like we kind of have this kind of call it the pyramid of awareness as well, is that you have people who are aware right now of the problem and the solution, and they want to take action to fix it. There will be people who are aware, you know, of the problem solution, but they're not quite ready to fix it.
Yeah.
You know? And then you have people who are aware of the problem, but they're not aware of the solution. And then some people who are not aware of the problem, but aware of the solution, you know, mixing those two up. And then you have the people who are unaware of the solution and unaware of the problem. And it's the new realizations that you have to get in front of them to then get them onto that buyer's mountain, right? That's the education piece. That's the part where you're marketing, you're nurturing, and you're nurturing those people up until they're at that point where it's like, okay, now if you get someone who's at that top point where they're aware of the problem, they're aware of the solution, they're ready to go right now, they're not interested in getting your ebook and checking that out for 2 weeks. They're not interested in waiting 6 weeks to come in and kind of see you and that. They want to do something now. So even if that is booking in for 6 weeks time or whatever it is, they want to book it in now because they know
they're ready. Yeah.
If you don't offer that to them, they're going somewhere else. And if you've ever like experienced it where you're talking to someone about your service or something like that, and it all seems really good, and then, you know, a month down the line you find out they're working with someone else, and you're like, why didn't they pick me? It's because you didn't bring them in to go in, let's do this. You know, you didn't take them through those stages, or when they were at the right stage, you offered the right solution. And that what you said about salespeople having that kind of conversion in mind, I think that's where we get a lot of, I mean, you might have to give me the word here, but it's like a disconnect when even for companies who have different people in different roles, but especially if you're outsourcing or you've got people doing different things for you, and when it's not working, it's because that disconnect is there, and it's that it isn't congruent between everyone for what they're trying to do. Everyone's trying to do their kind of thing to make what they're doing kind of work, but it doesn't work because the overall the basic machine isn't working together. The cogs aren't spinning together.
Yeah, and that's so true, isn't it? Where and again, I've been coaching companies in the past, and even working for companies in the past as well, where the sales and the marketing teams are kind of like in competition with each other. It seems at some point, and you know it's crazy where you get that situation because the marketing and the sales team have to work together. They must work together, and then you get the sales team then must work together with the fulfillment team as well. Because how many times have you heard that a salesman, and a lot of people say the salesman promises the earth, and then of course it can't be delivered. And that's another issue that you get, is that going back to the capacity, the salesman doesn't care. They want, well, I'll say they don't care, maybe they do. They want to sell something. They've gone through the marketing phase. The marketing, it's been handed over to sales. Like in I know when we had a big ERP system that we used to, enterprise system that we used to install, was that you had that function, that marketing function, and then on the whole process flow, that lead got passed on to sales, and there was that segregation. Sales want to close the lead. Marketing had given them the lead. Sales want to close it, but you got the fulfillment back end so say, no, please don't close any more leads, we can't handle it. And then so the sales team also needs to be aware of where the fulfillment team are in being able to deliver. So again, it's that whole process all the way through the system, which as you get different teams and bigger teams, can become, like you said, the disconnect, or that disconnect is that the fulfillment team then get a bit, they start working in competition with the sales team and knocking the sales team and say, oh, they'll just promise anything, we can't deliver that. And the sales team say, go, we close the sale, and they got to wait months and months for it to be delivered because they can't handle it. And the dynamics there completely break down, and that's another area where you can have a real dysfunctional company at some point. That's a difficult one. That then becomes a very, very difficult one to smooth over as well.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, that fulfillment part is just as important if not more important than the lead generation part and stuff like that. But and that's where you get into your processes and who does what and who takes ownership. Is a big. And if you're just in business on your own right now, like, make sure that you put those processes down that you follow yourself. Follow through with it. So even if it's just you and you deal with the marketing, the sales, and then the fulfillment and the customer service and all that kind of stuff, just make sure you put those blocks down. When is this person left this phase to enter this phase? Because again, like, when, as much as when you already have customers, you can market to them to get more customers or more kind of business from them. Is that once someone becomes a customer, that marketing is different marketing. So when you're trying to get someone to become a customer to begin with, and it's knowing that then when to change it. And when you get caught up in everything doing it yourself, I've heard of stories where I kind of think it's just bad, where like someone will sign up for something, some sort of service, say it's a website or something like that, and then they kind of get into the mix, and the client is thinking they're getting something, and when they say about something, that's not included, but I could do that for you, and it's this kind of money. It's like that shouldn't happen within the process. So it's either a case of it should all be dealt with up front, right, before that person becomes a client. When that person becomes a client, they know that they're going through a stage to finish whatever it is that you're offering, and then when you finish it, you can then offer the upsells and stuff like that. So you either offer the upsells before they come in, or offer it once you've kind of finished, but don't do it kind of draw in. Beginning place, you can do the upsells, or at the end. But when it's drawing, the customer service level drops then. The customer experience level drops, where you kind of just like, okay, I feel like I'm not getting what I thought I was getting. It becomes an issue. So it's like knowing that those processes, you get to have those conversations and make sure that everything happens.
And the other thing that came to mind for me when you were talking about that was that if you are a person on your own, especially actually if you are a person on your own, you're still at that level of business where you are the business and you're working in the business. Going back to the original thing we spoke about is, where do you need to focus your time? Is that if you put all these things down, your process on paper, even though you're doing every step, it's how much time am I able to spend on this marketing? How much time am I able to spend on the sales conversation? And how good am I at the sales conversation? How much time then am I able to spend delivering it? Because you yourself have got your bottlenecks where you can't do stuff. And if you get used to thinking that way when you're on your own, when you start to get a team in place, it's so much easier for you to be able to translate that to a team. So you suddenly you start working, you now have somebody who's doing the marketing for you, for example. And you're still looking after all the rest of it, sales, fulfillment. You can then explain to the marketing, this is what we need for you to be, and this is the information we need for you to be able to pass on. And then it go, as that works smoothly. And then as that grows, and maybe you get a salesperson to take on that sales for you because they're very good at it. You say, okay, this is how you two work together. You've got a marketing person, salesperson, and this is the information I need from you for the fulfillment. And those are your mini teams. And then as you grow and those teams grow, you then have you have a reasonably easy flow between all the different departments. And that's what I talk about when I'm coaching a lot of small businesses, or when we're coaching a lot of small businesses, is I say to them, think like you have a big business. And what I mean by that is not, have these great aspirations. Well, there's nothing wrong with having the aspirations, but don't have this great think you're sitting on a cloud, because you're not at that point. But think of the businesses. What do I need? What are all the departments I need to run my business? Marketing, sales, fulfillment, finance, whatever, all these kind of things. And then, although you're doing them all, right, this is the time that needs to be put in place, and these are the people I'm going to put in place. So the first person is the most important person to me that I need a VA to organize my time, for example, to help me, or is the most important person I need, the most important person I need to take on and look after the bookkeeping. A lot of people make the decision that the first person they're going to take on is a bookkeeper. Well, Okay, nothing wrong with that. But have they really evaluated that? Because maybe it's someone else, either in marketing or sales, or maybe in fulfillment before they take on a bookkeeper. But everyone, there seems to be this kind of drive that people say, right, make a list of all the jobs you hate and delegate them. But that is not necessarily the right thing to do, because you may hate the job, but it may not be as important either. And the fact is that you may hate selling. You might just get to say, I can't do these conversations. So what's happening is you don't have anything for the bookkeeper to do anyway, because you're not selling anything. So perhaps you just need to, so when you map out this process, where do I need to focus my time on now? Either you learn to become a better salesman in sales conversation, or you actually say, look, hands up, I'm quite happy putting out marketing stuff, but I need someone else to have that final conversation and the closing for me, because I'm no good at it. And someone who's got a, say, I don't know, 70% closure rate, brilliant, bring them on, okay, because they can do it. But and then maybe later on you can think about delegating your bookkeeping. But at the point, your bookkeeping probably is not that onerous anyway. And unless you really can't get your head around numbers, that's not always the best thing, or the first person to start putting in place is to delegate your bookkeeping, or even your diary manager. You know,
it's interesting, isn't it? There's no definitive answer. There's no right answer. There's no kind of wrong answer on that kind of stuff, like what you outsource and when or anything like that. It comes down to you and your kind of preference. Exactly. What's pretty interesting, I listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff like that. Out walking the dog, always got a podcast in. And I think over the past kind of week or so, I've listened to 3 different kind of gurus, right? Kind of, business kind of gurus and stuff like that. And they've all turned around, like one's turned around and said, look, sales is the most important thing. Like you need to make money, you need to get your offer right and get people in, right? And then you've got other people where it's like marketing is the most important thing. Marketing is the thing that outlives sales and all that kind of stuff. And I even heard someone turn around and say, our brand is the most important thing. Like you need to focus on brand, right? And it's like, these are people who are, they're great in business, right? But they're all kind of equal in business, right? But they're all saying 3 different things. So it's like, well, which one do you listen to? Like if you were to listen to one of the podcasts, not listen to the other 2, you might jump all in. And I think that's the danger that we live in today, is that people kind of see solutions, or they see that kind of shiny kind of solution where they go, okay, all I've got to do is this, or all I've got to do is that, I'll just pay someone to do Facebook ads for me, that'll solve everything, but really what you have to do is like you say, you have to ask yourself, what is really going on? Like, what am I not getting enough people in the door? Am I not having enough conversations? Am I not actually doing the job that I should be doing to complete it and get the money in the bank from that customer? If you break it down into those sections, you're going to see where you really need to pay your attention, right? You might be listening to this now going, I've got no customers. I don't know when the next customer is coming from. It's like, right, okay, look, you need to get into that front end marketing of letting people know that you exist, let them know how you help them.
Exactly.
Giving them that next step then to obviously, like you said, get that kind of lead magnet or something like that, or, get into having a call with them if it's something really serious. If you're getting into that kind of sales part where you're just like, do you know what, I've got enough kind of customers, but I'm not making enough money. Well, where can I add more money into it? Not a case of going, how can I just sell to them and make more money from them, but how can I add more value to it? Because like you said, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, they might find more value in, that peace of mind of someone looking after that boiler rather than not knowing when it may break down. Knowing that they can just call you up and go, we're having this issue or whatever. Yeah, okay, let's take a look at that. Or we're with you next week. Do you think it can wait till then anyway? Yeah, okay, let's get in with next week. It's that kind of stuff. And then, if you're going, but we've got more leads than we can handle, it's like, well, then there's a fulfillment issue, right? You need to look at exactly what you're doing. So I think, Mark, let's wrap things up for this episode. Yeah. I know I kind of just ran through, talking about where to focus your time, kind of one of those 3 areas, but anything that you want to just...
Well, I think just on that is where you focus your time is that it's the whole thing about, don't listen to ready-made solutions before you've taken the time to really plan what you need, to really think about what you need, and speak to someone, bounce ideas off someone, a coach, whatever. But and of course, we'll do the shameless plug, but we talk about ourselves. But I think that end piece is all about where do you need to focus your time? Is that work out what are your strengths and challenges, as they're now called, not a SWOT anymore. It's a SWOC apparently, SWOC. So, what are your strengths and weaknesses, and what are the challenges you've got and the opportunities you have? But where are your skills? I think that's essential for business owners. You're unlikely to be able to be skilled at everything. You normally, two of you may do it, but it's unlikely you're going to have every skill. So just think about your strengths before you listen to the solutions that are out there about whether you need marketing or whether you need help with that you need a fantastic website. It's a bit of a long summary, but think about what you need in your business, and it's your business at that particular point. So it's down to how you work as well.
Yeah, mate, like you said, shameless plug, strategyandconversions.com. We'll put a link down below to services. We have Momentum Builder, which is like a group program, and we also have a strategic partner, which is working one-on-one. But this right here is exactly what you just said, is that is guidance and direction, right? So listen to you and exactly what is going on with you right now. Yeah. And planning that the moves forward is not off the shelf solution. It's never been that way. Coming back to what I was saying earlier, when we were saying about kind of marketing qualified leads versus sales qualified leads, going back 5 years ago, it didn't really matter. No. You know? But now there's so much noise out there. There's so much information out there. You have to segment your leads. You know, that's what we'll get onto in the next episode. We'll look at how you can, close that profit gap and get to sort of making the money you want with putting the right kind of structure in place and stuff like that. But as always, thank you for listening. Leave a like, comment, share, wherever it is that you're listening along. We appreciate it. It helps the world go around, like 40 countries now with the Stuff podcast. So we got the States are top with our listeners. We then got the UK, and then Germany are sneaking up. So all our fans in Germany, thank you, and we shall catch you in the next episode.
I'll brush up on my German for the next episode.
Yeah, I was thinking of a word and I can't, so I'm sorry. But yeah, we'll do that. Mark, always been a pleasure.
Yeah, indeed. Thanks very much. Okay, cheers.